Swimming pool closing number 1. How to close your swimming pool yourself. Make sure to balance your swimming pool water before closing. For this equipment here, we have huge sand filter. We have ultraviolet right there. Just one pump, variable speed. We got main drain that way, side suction, which we keep closed all the time. There's the skimmer. The plumbing looks sort of crazy, but it's not too bad. Then we have a Repack heater. Whatever way you drop the water down below the skimmer, do it your way. If you use a pump, use a pump. I just used the main drain here. Drop your water below the skimmer. You're going to turn the power off. So everything off. So we got that on. So we're going to turn the power off. All the breakers. Make sure all the breakers are off. So there's a heater. Pool pump. Turn that off. Make sure the heater is off. Even I know you turn the breaker off, but make sure it's all off. Turn the gas off. I use this Mighty Vac. I'll try to link it down below. If your vacuum or blower, if your blower does not blow out the main drain, I'll show you in a second here, then it's not going to blow out the other lines properly. So we're going to do the main drain first. So we have the side suction off, skimmer off, main drain, we're going to put that on. Most pool pumps will have 2 plugs. So there's one here, and there's one right beside it. So there and there for this pump. Okay, we're going to turn that on. If you have a main drain, you want the blower blowing when you turn off the main drain. It keeps the water pressure down. Next, we're going to do the side suction. So open that up, and then we'll turn it on. Check for any bubbles that go around here. If you see any bubbles coming out here or the front, replace that or redo that. You can put back on. We're done with that side suction. Next is the skimmer. So we're going to open that up, and then we'll turn the blower on. This skimmer is really hard to blow out because of the 2-inch pipe that's run from the pump house back to the skimmer. You can put a different gizmo in there. This is just a standard gizmo, but you can get the gizmo with the hole so it create a smaller pressure so it shoot out better. But for this pool here, it takes a long time for it to blow out. I'll show you what to do to help with this. So we're going to turn the pump off, let the water go back down, and then turn the pump on again and it shoots it back out. Just keep on doing that back and forth. Okay, turn it off. So it's going to go back in. Okay. Turn it back on. Turn it off. Back on, and just keep on doing that until there's no water in there. Teflon tape. So the skimmer's done. Get the drain plug. So you don't lose the parts, put it back in the pump. I'll leave that off for a second. So now we got to blow out through the returns. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to disconnect there. Best place to blow the lines is just past the pump on the discharge side. So there's a union, I can disconnect that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect that. I'm going to undo this so I can turn this away, go up. So whatever way you have to try to blow it out. If you have a Hayward filter, turn it to recirculate. This will bypass the sand. You don't want it going through the sand. It'll just go through the valve. Right through the valve, go through. You might have another filter that has Whirlpool. Put it on Whirlpool. So there we go. We got it hooked up. Gonna go through the filter, come through. It's gonna go through the UV, go through the bottom of the UV. It's gonna go out here, and then through the heater, and then out. There we have a waterfall we're gonna blow out too, but we'll keep that closed for now. We're gonna do the jets. In this pool here we have 3 jets, so right away it came out on those 2, but I have one way over here underneath that diving rock. So what you want to do is you want to plug this one first, and see if it pushes out, and then plug this one. So it just looks like it's all joined underground right all the way around. So you gotta hold that till everything's blowing out all exactly the same. Check for any bubbles that go around here. If you see any bubbles coming out here or the front, replace that or redo that. So the cap we can put back on. Blow that out until you don't hear that water in there anymore. Plug for the heater. Pressure gauge, take that off. Sight glass for backwash, you can take that off. Should be a gasket in there. Oh, no gasket. All your stuff. Lid back on. For closing, you're going to go to closed, or I just go in between. Just make sure you screw everything back together. Skimmer basket, all your jets. Swimming pool closing number 2. Here we got a heater. It looks like a Pentair heater. Variable speed pump. Got a salt system up there. The Hayward salt system. Stay right sand filter. There's the salt cell right here. So right now we're just dropping the water. I'm just putting on backwash for now. And luckily I have a main drain that goes to the front and a skimmer. Most people just have the skimmer. Skimmer is almost down to where it's just sucking air. So I'm going to turn off the skimmer and I'm just going to suck in from the main drain. I'm going to lower it down below the skimmer. Once you get it below the skimmer where it's not going back in, I'll show you the next step. Just take off all the jets. Put in your duct plug. When you blow out the lines, if you see any bubbles coming out here or here, just redo the Teflon tape and put it back on. Because we're not dropping the water too far down, what I do is just, if you have this type of light, I just undo it a bit. Just that if ice gets behind there, it's not breaking off those 2 tabs there. If you want to weigh down the light, just get a container. It doesn't have to be like this, but anything, any weight. Usually people put rocks in the bottom and the string. And then we're going to tie it on the neck of the wire. Just like that. So take your basket out, all your jets, put in the basket for storage. That weir, the flap, it's called a weir. We're going to take that off. There's a little tab most of the time. Sometimes they don't have it. Sometimes you have to get a screwdriver in there and pop it off. but throw that in the basket also. If you have a timer, make sure the timer's off and the breaker's off to the timer. Turn off all the breakers, anything to do with the pool. Same as with the heater, because we don't want to blow the lines and the heater turns on. So we're going to turn it off at the heater and we're going to turn the breaker off. Gas line, that's on. We want it off. Yeah, gas is off. Make sure, I know we turned off the breaker. Just got to check it, make sure everything's off. If you don't have the digital one, you'll have a switch. Make sure the switch is off. Pump is off. If you have a salt cell, make sure it's off. And the power for this one here, it's just a plug. Unplug that. Blow the main drain, if you have one, and the skimmer first. So you're gonna open this up and take the basket out. Remove both plugs. There's gonna be 2 plugs. There's 2 on the other opposite side of this for the Pentair. Basket out, your 2 plugs you just took off the pump, put them in the basket. Drain plug, if you have a sand filter or a cartridge filter, take the plug off. Try to blow it in from this way. There's so many different setups blowing it out that you have to figure out your own way of blowing it out. We're going to do the main drain first. Shut off the skimmer. So all the pressure will go to the main drain. And as you're blowing it out, it should look like this. If it doesn't look like this, then your blower's not strong enough and you're not getting all the water out. While the pump's running like that, run it for about 3 minutes and then turn off your main drain while it's on. It keeps the pressure and air pocket way down. So the water that's in further down in the ground, it's not going to freeze. It's not going to come back up because we stopped that pressure. There's nowhere for the air to be pushed out. As long as your ball valve's working, you're not going to get water all the way up. Next, we're going to open up the skimmer and we're going to blow out the skimmer the same way. If you have a hard time blowing out the skimmer, try turning off the blower, wait till it stops, and then turn it back on. You'll get that extra pressure to push out a lot of the water. Do that a few times and see if that works for you. After you're done blowing out all the water, the gizmo I'm going to use is just standard gizmo. My other videos will show one with a hole. We could have done it on this pool because it's a newer pool, so I didn't have to drop the water because we're going to put a safety cover on. But I just wanted to show you how to do this type of skimmer and this type of gizmo. So we have a 2-inch opening on the bottom. A lot of pools are 1.5 inches. So your gizmo comes 2-inch, 1.5 inches. So we're going to put a little bit more Teflon tape on this and we're going to screw it in there. Before we screw it in, take some antifreeze. Now this is a big jug, so if you have a smaller jug, use half of it. Just pour it in. It goes in the lines just in case it leaks. Tape up your gizmo a little bit better Teflon tape than that, and screw it in there snug. I put it on there by accident, so there's my 2-inch I'm going to use. So just snug. Take some other antifreeze and we're just going to fill up the bottom a little bit. That's it for the skimmer, and just put the lid on it. We're done the main drain and we're done the skimmer. If you have a side suction, you're going to have to blow that out too. So for the return side, most of the time I try to disconnect it just after the pump, the discharge. But if I follow this, I don't want to cut it anywhere. I'm not going to have any water sitting in there, so all the water is going to come out of here and it's going to go down here and it's going to drain out the pump. So this here goes down, across, and into the dial head. Most of the time The dial head you have to turn to recirculate or whirlpool. Depends on what type of filter you have. It's going to say recirculate or whirlpool. That's only if you're going to go through here. If I had it cut here and I was going to blow out this way and in here, I would turn it to whirlpool or recirculate. But for this pool here, I'm going to disconnect it coming out. So this is coming in from the pump. This is, it says return. It says it right on here. So I'm going to disconnect here. So it's going to go down. It goes through the heater outside. It's going to come back out of the heater. It's going to go through a check valve, out through the salt system, down into two different jets. So where it splits off like that, one goes to one jet, one goes to the other jet. Connected the top one coming in from the top of the pump to the filter. I just disconnect just in case there's a little bit of water in here. There wasn't too much. It's dripping out right now. You can always put that back together after. Just let some of the water drip out of it and then put this back. I've disconnected this to put my hose to this side. And we're going to tape it up right now. Got my hose for the blower. Now if this is your pool, you don't have to tape it up each year. I would rig up something better. Maybe a union. You already have a hose for your spot. Have a hose and then have a union where you can screw this on to this part. A little easier. We're going to turn on the blower and we're going to blow out the return lines. Jet blowing out good, but we have the other jet. It's not blowing out yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to force the water to go get pushed over there. So we're going to block this one off. Just put your hand in front of it. For about 5 minutes or so. Once it's running all good, it's blowing out pretty good, all the jets. Whatever heater you have to do the drain plugs on the side. If you have a pressure switch, make sure that you undo the pressure switch. Mostly that's in Hayward heaters. Most heaters have a pressure switch, but you can't get to them all. But if you blow the lines long enough, it should be okay. You might have, you know, two on one side and then one. The Pentair has one right on the bottom. So as it's blowing out, it's right on the bottom here. It's not going to be a big plug like this. It's going to be a little plug. Because the check valve is preventing the blower from blowing out all the water, I'm going to disconnect that check valve. It's just not getting blown out. I'm just going to remove the whole check valve. And then we'll blow out that, and then we'll blow out this way back to the jets again. So if this was your pool, every year you're going to have to do the same thing. Take this off and blow it out properly. There was no water in there, so we're going to go up and out to the jets again. Do that for a few minutes. Connect this. So I'm going to have to hold it there, blow the lines out for a bit. After you're done blowing out the return lines, make sure your cap for the duct plug goes back on. This pushes in. The brand new ones are a little tougher. And if the water's cold. If you have a backwash, solid backwash, meaning that if it goes out and it goes underground, you're going to have to blow it out. You just have the rollout one, just disconnect it. You don't have to blow with anything. Make sure your top dial, you turn it to closed. Drain plugs off. Take pressure gauge off. If you have a sight glass, take it off. See if there's a gasket inside. Take the basket into your pump, then close it back up. Your basket from the pool side, put it anywhere in the pump house. We're done on the equipment side. Now it's time, whatever winter cover you have, you can put it on now. Swimming pool closing number 3. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 jets and 2 skimmers. For the equipment, we have a Raypack heater, Hayward filter, Hayward pump. And for the suction side, we have for the 2 skimmers, and we have a main drain. The suction coming in from the 2 skimmers and the main drain goes up to the filter, goes through the filter, comes out on the other side of this dial, goes into the heater, comes out of the heater, goes down, and it veers off in 2 different directions. Normally your pool wouldn't be like this. It would just go to one jet, one to one jet, one to the other. But here one goes to 2 jets and the other one goes to the other 2 jets. I'm just going to put it on backwash. So clean the sand out before the winter time, so the water be easier to drain out if you clean this out as best you can. So backwash, turn the pump on. Because we have the 2 skimmers and the main drain and we want below the returns, I'm going to shut off the 2 skimmers because it's just going to start sucking air, and then it's going to suck in from the main drain. You might not have this, so whatever way you have to drain your pool, drain it below the returns. I have some other videos and I'll link it right above here where you don't have to drop your water. Only on some pools. Your pool, you might have to drain it down. There's a lot of pools out there that you can just leave the water topped up. We now got it below the skimmer. I'll show you what to do on the equipment side. We're still draining it, but we're below the skimmer. So this is the 2 skimmers here. So we're gonna open them up just so enough it sucks some of the water out, and then once it starts sucking in there, just turn it back down. We don't want to lose prime. So we're going to open it up. It starts sucking the water out of there. As soon as it starts doing that, we don't want to lose prime, so I just shut it off right away as soon as it starts doing that. Then we pick back up. We're almost there. Then we're going to do the next one, which is this one here. And once it starts sucking air, we're going to shut that fast. Okay, so we're going to open that up now. And shut it right away. And then we'll blow the rest of the water out after, once we get it below the returns. A lot less water in there now. There's still a little bit, but at least we got most of it out. You can try it again, suck out more water. You can almost get that thing empty. Right now, I'm going to do it one more time. Same thing for that one. That one's not as bad, but we'll just kind of turn it on and then turn it off. Do it one more time for the first one. There we go. I can hear it sucking in from the pool. I'm gonna do the second one. Shut that off quickly. Let's go see what it looks like. It's a lot better. That's water to try to blow out with a if you ever use a vacuum, but with the blower I use, it's fine. You don't have to do this, but if you're using a shop vac, you want to take out as much water as possible because it's harder to push out. My water's down far enough, just under the jets. Next is we take the basket out. Drain plugs, whatever pump you have, should have 2. For the Hayward, there's one in the front and then one on the side. Take all your parts, put it in the pump basket. Drain plug for the filter. Even if you have a cartridge filter, it's gonna be a drain plug. We want the water to come out like that. If it doesn't come out at all, you got to remove the sand because it's full of water. So that in the basket. We got our blower ready. Again, I'll link that down below, that blower there. If you've seen my other videos, I just use a old Kreepy hose from a Kreepy Krauly. And for the Hayward super pumps, it fits right in there. I don't have to tape anything. And we're going to do the main drain first, and we already have that open. Our skimmers are closed. So the main drain should look like this. while it's still on, as the blower is still going, we want to turn that main drain off. We want to keep that pressure down so the water doesn't come back in. So it's going to be full of air and it can't push it out. And then we're going to turn that off and turn off the blower. Next, just pick one of the skimmers. If you have one skimmer, just do that one. We're going to turn the blower back on. We're going to turn it on and blow out the one skimmer. Now, if you're using a shop vac, what you could do is you shut the pump off or shut the blower off and then turn it back on. What it does is all the water goes back down low and you turn it back on, it just shoots it all out. I'll show you what it looks like. Right now I'm going to turn off the blower and I'm going to turn it back on once it settles. Put your antifreeze in there, then put your Gizzmo in and put about 2-3 inches of antifreeze in the bottom, and you're done for that skimmer. And you just put your basket in the pump house. Because I have 2 skimmers, I'm going to do the same with this one. So we're going to open up the next skimmer. I'm going to blow out that one. You might have a side drain. This applies to anything. Just blow out everything. The main drain is a little different if you have a main drain. You want to shut it off. Keep that air in to keep the water down, that pressure. The skimmer doesn't matter because you're going to plug the other side and antifreeze it. And if you have a side suction or some other side suction, you can just keep it open also. For this one here, I have a second, so I'm going to blow that one out the same way. Again, antifreeze. Gizzmo. More antifreeze. If you have the flap in the front, which is called a weir, take that off. Or if you have these little jugs and they're empty, put the cap back on and push them through the front, and it keeps the flap down. Plus, if the ice gets up high enough, it will crush this. So the skimmer's done. Gonna make sure that your power's off, everything's all off, and gas line off. Now some pools you just can't drop the water. See, I got the wrinkles in the liner because the groundwater is seeping in. The groundwater is pretty high. Not every pool you can drop the water, and it's a really good example of why some of my videos I don't drop the water. So for next year, I'm not going to drop the water in this pool. It's all the way around. It's all there. Now we're going to blow out the return side. So after the pump, I like to put a union in so I can just disconnect this, but halfway. And then I'll tape my hose to it. Then that way I can turn to recirculate or whirlpool, depends on what kind of filter you have. You want to bypass through this dial, not through the whole filter. So recirculate on Hayward, whirlpool on like a Pentair or other ones. So it's going to go through here, out through the heater, and out through the returns. Got my hose all taped up. Now you don't have to do this every year. If you have just your pool, then you would hook it up where, like say this part here, the other side of this union, I would have it somewhere, this piece here, buy another one, and then this piece here, just hook it to whatever hose you're going to use. That way you can just screw it on. A little easier. So right now, we're going to blow out the returns. We got the recirculate, and we'll see what it looks like. I started this video yesterday, and I was finishing it today, and it rained overnight. So the water kind of went up a bit. So yesterday we were below that return. Now we're it's kind of going in there. So I'm going to have to do it a certain way here. So whatever jet comes out first, like the water comes out first, that's the first one you're going to plug. Because we have 4 jets here. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4 is on the side here. The first one that the water rushed out was this one here, and the second was this one. So I'm going to block this one off first as it's going. You can use an expansion plug, or you can use just the yellow plugs. We got that plug on, and I got that plug over there on. That one there, I can't hear the air coming out and gurgling. So I'm going to block this one off, and it should come out the other jet here behind me. We'll see what happens. I'm going to plug that. So a lot of water came out there once I plugged that other one. So all of them are plugged up except this one here. So I'm going to run it for a little bit because I can hear a little bit of gurgling. As long as we get most of it out. I'm going to run it for a bit. And as that's blowing, we're going to go to the equipment side and pull the plug on the heater. Now this ray pack's a little bit different. They don't have the little plug on the bottom. They have the sensor here. So you have to unscrew this. So counterclockwise. Blower off, and then put your last plug in. Next we put the basket back in. Make sure the drain plug's off. We're going to take off pressure gauge and the sight glass for the backwash. Put all your stuff in the basket. Make sure that the gas is turned off and your heater's turned off. Top dial, just turn it anyway. You can turn it to closed or in between. I just go in between most of the time. Don't forget the lid. Look over everything, make sure you never miss anything. You got all the water out of everything on the equipment side. Once you know you're good on this side, then you can put your winter cover on. Swimming pool closing number 4. Once you get it below the return, I'll show you what to do next. If you have a Hayward pump, there's going to be 2 drain plugs on it. One's going to be in the front, one's going to be on the side. You just got to find the 2 drain plugs. And if you don't have a Hayward pump, whatever pump you do have, more than likely there's going to be 2 drain plugs somewhere on the bottom. Sometimes there's 2 on one side. Sometimes, like this one here, it's 1 here, 1 on the side, but there's going to be 2 of them. One's going to be for the front where the basket is, and then the other one's going to be for where the impeller is. So drain those. Take the lid off and take the basket out. Anything on the equipment side, we're going to throw it back into the pump basket. Drain plug on the bottom of the filter. If you have a cartridge filter, there's going to be one on the bottom of that. Now, if water doesn't come out like that, that means, like if it just drips, that means you need a sand change. It's going to be clogged. You might have to change the sand before you even close the pool, because there's going to be water sitting in there. So if it's not coming out, like if it's coming out a little bit less than that, least it's coming out. But if it's like barely dripping, it's gonna freeze before it totally drains. So you're gonna have to take the sand out. For this pool here, I have suction from the main drain. I have suction from the skimmer. You might have a different setup. You might just have right to the skimmer. So you're gonna have to blow that line out. Your main drain might go to, you might have a main drain, you might not. Your main drain might go right to the skimmer. We're gonna blow the main drain first. Now, if you've watched some of my other videos on closing a pool, I always use a piece of a Kreepy hose, and I have a Mighty Vac. Now, I'll link it down below, one that's similar to this, because I'm not even sure if you can get this one anymore. Most people have Haywards, and it fits right in. Fits in like that. If you have a different pump, you might have to jam it in there and do whatever you have to do. I could disconnect this and put a different hose on. Whatever connection, whatever you have to do to blow out the lines, your hookup for your pool, then I'm sure you can rig something up. But so many pools, there's so many pools, so many different ways. But this is how I do it, and I've never had any issues. We're gonna blow the main drain, and this is what it should look like. As you're blowing out the main drain, as the blower's running, once those bubbles come up, maybe do that for about 30 seconds to a minute. And whatever valve you have, you should have, maybe you'll have a ball valve, and then the three-way. While it's still running, just turn it off really quickly. And keeps that air pressure down, the water's not gonna come back up. We've blocked off the main drain. Now it's going to the skimmer. Let's blow the skimmer. Once you feel that you got most of the water out, you're gonna put antifreeze down inside the opening. You're gonna screw the Gizzmo on. And then you're going to put about 2-3 inches of antifreeze down in there, and then you're done. Don't forget to take the flap off, which is called a weir. Make sure you take that off. Stuff from the pool side and your weir and jets, and just put it in the pump house somewhere safe. Take your basket with your stuff in there. Just put that in there for now. Next, we're going to do the return lines and the heater and everything else. I like to blow the lines just right after the pump. So we have a union here, and we're gonna hook up there and blow it out. If you have a Hayward filter, you might have a little different one. We're gonna turn it to recirculate. Yours might say Whirlpool, so turn it to Whirlpool. It won't blow through the sand. It's just gonna blow through this top dial. We got that hooked up. As the pump's running, if you have 2 jets, what you want to do is you want to plug one off first, and it's normally the one that starts blowing out the water first. When you're blowing the water, whatever jet blows out first, that's the closest jet. So that far one over there is going to be a little bit more water than this over here, so we're going to block that off while it's still blowing. So we're going to cover it here, and it should come out right there. Plugs in snug, go around all your jets and do that. Heater you have to take the plugs off, the drain plugs. Normally they're on the manifold. Sometimes they'll have one on the other side, maybe 2, but you got to find where the drain plugs are for your heater. So for this Hayward, there's going to be one right here. Sometimes they're right on the bottom. So as it's running, just before you plug off your last jets, you want to take this off. heater plug right there. So we're done everything. You put your plugs on for the rest of the jets. Take off your pressure gauge and your sight glass for your backwash. Might be a little washer in there. This one doesn't have it. No wonder it was leaking. In the basket. Turn your dial to closed or in between any of them. It just opens it up for draining on the bottom. We're done on the equipment side, so put your lid back on. Now for the salt cell, I normally never take this off because if you get enough of the water out, there's no reason to take it off. Some of my videos I've taken them off and I've hung them. It all depends on the situation. This pool here, it blows out really, really well, so I don't have to worry too much about it. Plus, these always break. You take them on and off, on and off, on and off. It's plastic, so anything plastic, you keep on messing with it over and over and over and over and over again, is going to be a problem down the road. These here, it must be a different plastic than the normal fittings because they always turn yellow compared to everything else. And I've had so many of these crack. When you try to tighten them, they've always cracked. As long as you get all the water out, there's no issues. But that's how you close this pool anyway. Swimming pool closing number 5. Now what I use for my hose, it's an old piece of like a Kreepy hose from a Kreepy Krauly. And you can buy a section of this at the store. They come in little sections. So I just use this, but it's great for the Hayward pumps because I don't have to tape anything. Take your plugs out. Don't forget, take your plugs out. Any pump you have should have 2 of them. The Hayward has one in the front and then one over to the side. Different pumps will have 2 on one side. One will be in here and one will be back here. There's like 2 chambers in any of the pumps. So you have where the basket part is and then where the impeller is. So you want to drain both of them. Take both plugs out. Clean your basket out. So you're going to drain that. Then we're going to keep everything together. So we're going to put everything in the basket, and then we're going to put the basket back in here. We'll put the lid back on so we're not losing anything. So I can push that and it just fits right in the fitting on this 1.5-inch fitting. It slips right inside there, so it's not going to come out. Now I have it all set up. Now this here, if you want to look for it, it's a Mighty Vac. It's meant for closing pools. So I've had this for probably about 18 years or so. So you can maybe find them. If you have a shop vac, it has to be pretty powerful. Like the cyclone power of this is amazing. Now if we had a main drain that came to the front of the pump, now your stuff might go to the skimmer, it might branch off, it might go to the main drain. Now if you try to use a shop vac for a main drain from here and you blow it out to there, and if you don't see all the bubbles just like a volcano, then it's not powerful enough. So you're gonna have to get a blower, maybe a leaf blower, set something up, leaf blower, maybe a gas powered one. If you can blow those bubbles right up from the deep end, now you have enough power. So here we have it all set up. We're going to be turning it on, and I'll show you what it looks like with the Ultra Gizzmo. And what I do is I'll just let it run and run and run. So you see all the mist coming out? So go around and do everything else you have to do around your pool, clean up, move stuff, whatever, get ready for the cover. So we want all that mist to go away. Once in a while you'll get blip, 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 but just you want to keep on blowing it out as much as you can. Do other stuff. Anything that comes in the front, that's your suction. So it could be a bottom main drain, could be a side drain, could be the skimmer. Okay, so we blow that, we've blown all that out because I only have the skimmer. If you have other things like a side drain, you might have 3 cutoffs here. You might have a ball valve here, splits off, and then splits off here. So you just got to deal with each one. Just shut off, do the next one, do the next one. Here it comes out. This is really basic pool equipment here. So discharge, okay. Now this one here, the way I like to do it for in the future too. If you watch a bunch of my other videos, I do not like clamps like this. I don't like bar fittings. I do not like clamps. That's just a failing point. I just don't like them at all. So when I run into this, I've never closed this pool before. So for next year, instead of changing this out, what I do is I'll just cut it here. And then next year I'll put a union in here. That way I can just disconnect here for next year, move it out of the way, and I can just blow the lines out. But for today, I'm going to cut it right about here because it's more of a straight, and this is an old pipe. So I don't want it on an angle here. I mean, you could, but just easier going about here. Even if you do a sand change, at least you just have to disconnect it here, and it's not bulky. Like here, they don't have a union. And if they ever do a sand change, you know, I'd cut it right about here and put a union in here so you can just disconnect it and move all this out of the way. Same as with this backwash, it goes into the ground. I'd put a union right about here. But if you have a Hayward filter like this, see this backwash here doesn't have a shut off, a ball valve. Hayward heads like this, the dial filters always fail. Always. If you think you're losing water, first thing, if you have one of these filters and you think you're losing water in your pool, first place you're going to look, backwash. Now, if you have it laid out like this goes out, buried, and it goes into the bush over there. So you would have to walk over there. I've already checked it because they always leak. The person wasn't losing water, but I checked at the start of the season. But just when it's running, go over there and take a look, see if you see anything. If it's ever leaking out here while it's running on filter, put a ball valve in here. You can just shut it off. So you just turn it on every time you go to backwash or waste or whatever. Okay, so for this here, what we're going to do is we're going to cut this. The filter, we're going to change it to recirculate. Now, if you have a different filter, you might have Whirlpool. So it's going to be recirculate or Whirlpool. What that does is it doesn't go through the sand because I don't want it blowing air through the sand. It just goes through this dial. It just bypasses, just goes right out here and then out through the heater, and I can blow it all out. Here, we're just going to take off drain plug, and I'll show you how to deal with this in a second. But right now, we're going to change this to recirculate. Got it. I'm just going to get ready to, this is why I like this thing. It'll fit right there, and I'm going to duct tape it. That's done. We're on recirculate. It's going to go straight through. It's going to go through this and out and then through the heater. Before I turn this on, it depends on your pool. Now this is a Raypak heater. It depends how old it is. There's 5 million heaters out there. So, but all heaters have some drain plugs. Okay. So for the Raypak, they're going to be here. It's going to be a plug. It's underneath there. There's one. I would suggest not to move this one. The reasoning for that is that the plug in there is really hard to take off, and I can almost guarantee you when you try to take it off or put it in, you're going to drop it down there, and then you have to take this whole side off. Okay? Well, I'll show you how to deal with that to get the water out. There should be one on the other side.
Most of the manifolds will have one or two on the bottom. Now for the Raypak, it just has this one right here. So we're going to take that one off, but not right now. We're going to blow out the returns.
Before you start, make sure that power's off. Turn power off to this. Okay, I've seen so many times where you blow the lines. You don't deal with this. You got to turn the gas off. Here's the gas. I'm going to turn that off just in case the pilot's going and it can burn itself off. Make sure that the power's off, this is off, and if you have to, turn the power off where you have to, like the panel. Now, I've seen it where you start blowing the lines out through the heater, the heater turns on, no water. But it's because there's a pressure switch in there that thinks there's water going through there. You just created a pressure. It doesn't know it's air. And then the heater turns on, and and it's not good. So make sure the heater's off when you blow the lines on the return side. Okay, so we're going to turn that on, and I'll show you the jet side. You see it all coming out. This is the first jet here. The other one's not even coming out yet. So all the water is getting pushed out. When we see bubbles like that, that means it's just air. So we got that one going. Just gotta wait for that one there. It's starting to go now. So it's gradually getting pushed out. So what we want is the same on both sides for a bit. So you want it like that, the same as both sides. If you have 2 or 3 other jet, you might have to cover it with your hand. More pressure on another jet over here. But you want all of them to come out the same. See, both my jets are about equal. I let it run for maybe about 5 minutes or so, just for the 2 jets. Turn it off, we're gonna take this plug off. Wait till all the water's out on that return side, and then deal with this. We'll see how much water's in here. Because we're not taking out the other side. It's gonna blow it a little bit longer. So that was a really good sign that even though there was like no spray whatsoever, not even a little bit of mist. So that's good. It's really pushed out of there. So you take any plugs you have from the heater, put them in there for the filter. Because we're done with this, we're going to turn it to close. I just put it in between anywhere. Take the pressure gauge off, and you're going to take this sight glass off too. After you do that, drain plug. Very important. Too many people crack these in the wintertime. I'm in the friggin' jungle here. So we're gonna undo this. Get all that water out. Again, plug in there. Sight glass. Watch this. Remember, you have this. Too many people lose these too. So you put that in there. Put that in there. So we're done on this side, so we can turn this to close. I just go in between. We're going to take this off in a second. Then the lid. Any pool you have, do it this way. So next year you're not losing little minor little pieces. Because if you start putting stuff together next year, and then you go, hey, I got some extra part here. And you can't figure out where it goes, and you start it, and then wherever it's squirting out. I've done it on heaters so many times where I get an extra part, and I'm like, I can't even know where that comes from. And then you start it up, and then it comes in and go, oh, there you go, shut it off, put it on. So all the parts in there. So you're not guessing on where things go, and so whatever you put in here, you know everything's going to be going back. So for this pool here, I have a chlorinator for the pucks and stuff. I don't like these at all, but we got to deal with it. So instead, because they're plastic pieces and taking it on and off, if you can, and a lot of people will take these all the way off, like on, off all the time. I don't like really taking them on and off all the time because you're going to break something. Okay, if you kind of leave it, that's fine. You've already blown the lines out. We know there's going to be water in here, okay? So when you're blowing the line out, sometimes there's a plug on the bottom here Not sure if this one has it or not, but sometimes you can't flip these upside down like I'm going to do. We know that there's probably a little bit of air in here, or a little bit of water in here, and a little bit of water in here. What I do is I'll open this up. Right, took the lid off. Now, if you have a hard time taking these on and off, I think I have a, I'm not sure, you take apart this and then grease everything all up. I think I have a video on that, how to grease this all up. You take this off, there's a plastic nut in there, take it all apart, grease it all up. So it's way easier taking this on and off all the time. Okay, so what I do is, for this one, see there's water in it? So we blew the lines out. So I know that there's a little bit of water in here. It probably just went in. I take that water there. Just flip it upside down. So we know there's probably no water down here. So get as much water out as possible. This is weighted, so no critters can go in there. And if there's any water in here, it'll slide down there. We got most out anyway because we blew the line. So you just don't want the pipe solid. Like, doesn't matter if it's this one here or any pipe. You don't want it solid, solid, solid. Now, underground, if there's a little bit of, there's like, maybe the pipe's like this, and there's water in it, it could be full. It's not going to crack anything because it's just going to creep along the rest of it. So on the equipment side, I think we're done for this. And this is so basic. If you have any questions, just put them down below and I'll answer them. But this applies to any pool you have, any equipment. You might have other pumps, you might have other jets, waterfalls, whatever you have. The biggest thing is you need to blow the water all out, blow the water out, blow everything, all the water out. Like, look over, double check everywhere. Like the filters, you know, drain plugs, plugs on the pump. Just get all the water out. If you have to shop vac it out, like a cartridge filter, shop it out if you can't get to the bottom plug, because sometimes you can't get to the bottom plug. I have a couple customers that the plug's on the back side, can't get to here, can't move anything out of the way. So I got to shop vac it all out. So do what you can, get all the water out if you're in an area where you don't want anything to freeze, if you're shutting down for the winter time. If you're in Florida or California, don't worry about it. Swimming pool closing number 6. Balance your water the day before and make sure that the water is below the skimmer. Turn the pump off, salt cell off, no power. Turn all the breakers off too. Heater, if you have electrical going to it, turn it off, and the breaker. Make sure everything is off. So it's off, switch is off, gas is off. Here we have one suction to the skimmer. So skimmer goes up, goes into the filter. Here they have some kind of backwash or drain kind of weight on waste. Goes out that way, goes through the filter, comes out into the heater, which is a ray pack, comes out, goes through the salt system. Looks like there was another salt system there. There's 2 different ones. This one's gone. That's the one that's in it now, and then splits off to the 2 jets. So I'll show you how to close this one. You might not have this same setup, but I'm going to take this backwash hose off. First thing is, we'll open up the air. Whatever pool pump you have, you're going to take the basket out.
Drain plugs for the pump. Should be 2 of them.
Put your plugs in your basket. Time to blow out your skimmer. Now I use a hose, just a part of a hose from a Kreepy Krauly, and it fits perfectly into a Hayward pump. Before you turn on the blower, we got to put our Gizzmo in. Make sure you put Teflon tape. On this pool, we're using a Ultra Gizzmo, which has a little hole at the top, so you can blow all the water out. Screw the Ultra Gizzmo into the pool skimmer. Now it's time to turn on the blower. Time to add the pool antifreeze. There's a flap at the front called a weir. See if you can get that out. Sometimes they're hard to get out, but try to get it out. Next is take out all your jets and install your duct plug or your bungee plugs. Now, all my pools, I use a duct plug or I use a bungee plug. Take the bolt off, and remember how you put this all back. Take this off. That's the same way it goes back. So take this off. Take off the drain plug on the bottom of the cartridge filter. You can hose out the cartridge filter and clean it all out, or just wait till opening.
Take your plug that you took off, put it back, because mice love to go in there and they'll build a nest. So it doesn't have to go on all the way, as long as it threads on.
Now we're going to hook up our hose to the cartridge filter, and this will push out all the water from the bottom of the cartridge filter through the heater and through the jets. As the pump's going, we're going to pull the plug out of the heater here. There's one on the other side, and there's one right here at the manifold. For this particular heater, this Ray pack, I never touch the other one on the other side. I always go for this one here, because it blows it out. There's other heaters where there's two on this side, two on the other. On the manifold, there might be two on yours, but just you're going to have to watch other videos to find out which one's yours. This equipment might not even be yours, but you're going to have to watch a whole bunch of them. So right now, we're going to pull that as it's running. I'm going to turn it on right now. So we're going to pull that plug. So same as with the salt cell, I just leave that salt cell in. I've never had an issue. There's nothing to block the water if there's any water in there, as long as you just blow the lines out a little bit longer. Because every time you take these off, this particular one, these side unions off, you could damage them. Sometimes they crack. So just leave it on there. Plus, I just have one line coming out. So we're just going to leave that, just blow it a little bit longer. Don't forget to put the yellow caps back on the duct plug. That's it. Put your plug in there. Basket back on. Take all your parts. Put your lid back on. Don't worry about the strap. Strap you just put over to the side somewhere if it's inside. If it's outside like this, just put it inside the garage. Same thing with filter. Filters, clean them and put them in the garage to dry out for next year. Swimming pool closing number 7. So you want to vacuum up all this stuff, balance your water out a couple days before, and then we're going to lower it down. You can either pump it out or just backwash it down. Remove the ladders and whatever else you have in the pool cleaner, move everything all out. So right now we're going to drop this water down. Now I'm going to use these duct plugs. I'll show you how to use them, but I want to blow the lines underwater. So for that, I'm going to drop that down. I'm going to use a Gizzmo for that, that I could use without dropping the water too far down. So we're going to turn it to backwash. And turn it back on. And drop it down a little bit. And we're cleaning the sand at the same time. Next is take out all the jets. And then we're going to be putting in these duct plugs. I'll link this down below. Just so we can blow the lines underwater. So we know it's 100% sealed. If I drop that water below that return, and I blew the lines out and then Teflon tape a plug and put it back on, we know the water's going to get back on. Doesn't matter what kind of cover you have. Over the winter time, if you get snow and ice and all that stuff, rain, it's going to come back up over top. How do you know it's not totally sealed? With a duct plug, you know it's totally sealed because it's underwater. When we blow the lines out, when we stop blowing the lines, this collapses back in. And if this has failed at all, you'll see a bunch of bubbles come up, and we know that the water's getting back in. So put these on where you can. Some pools you can put these on, some pools you can't. The duct plug's on, and the yellow piece is right there. I'll show you how to do that after. So these duct plugs, I put some Teflon tape on there just for an added protection. But then you got this O-ring right here, and it goes right into the jet. You can't put these on every single pool and every single jet. It depends on if you can use them or not on yours, but they're great to have. Next, we're going to take off the ladder if you have one. Now, the trick for this is not to bring this bolt up all the way. Do a couple turns and see how it's raised up a bit. I'm going to bang that down. There's a wedge down there. You don't want it falling down, so because we still have it connected. So then we can pull it out. Do it on both sides equally. If it comes undone, if you can feel that it comes undone, make sure it screws back in. Okay, we got it out. Once you get it out, that's what it looks like. There's a little wedge. So you take all this stuff and just throw it in a basket. And then when you put this next year, you can just grease this all up. It's easier to take off each time. Take your skimmer basket and all the jets you just took out, just put them all in one. Same with anything else, just put it all in one basket. Take these off the ladder if you can. Same as with the bumpers on the bottom of it. Take those off because this is full of water. Again, everything goes into the basket. You're not going to lose everything. So the ladder, when you're done, you can either hang it on the fence or just put it inside somewhere. Just your standard setup for a basic pool. So you got your filter, your pump, your heater. So this is a Ray pack and this is a Hayward pump and then a Hayward filter. So we've already backwashed it down down far enough. So I'm going to show you how to put the Gizzmo in Ultra Gizzmo. See, I didn't really drop the water too far down. I just brought it down until it started sucking air. So the front hole there, this one right there, that's my main drain. Your main drain might go to the pump house, but this one here is open. That one's not plugged off. Yours might be plugged. So you might not have a main drain. If it's plugged, then it's probably going to be inside the pump house. But for this pool here, front is main drain, back is to the pump house, to the pump. So I have to block off the front first. So for what I do, take a piece of foam, maybe about 12 inches long, off like a pool noodle. This is my plug, it's 2-inch. Yours might be 1.5 inch. So I just put it in the front. Now, I've never had any problems in 18 years. Some pool places will do things a little different, but in 18 years I've never had an issue, and I'm in Canada, so as long as a piece is long enough, that foam inside, even if it freezes, it's down far enough that the frost won't go down that far anyway. Usually it's around 4 feet normally. There we go. Now I just hand tight that because I'm going to be putting some there's going to be antifreeze in here too. There's water there. You can drop it below that and then fill it up full of antifreeze also. But it's all going to be full anyway. Here's the Gizzmo we use. It's called an Ultra Gizzmo. It has a plug on the top and it's easier to blow out. So you got a 1.5 inch, you got a 2-inch. We have a 1.5 inch for our thread for towards the pump. Take the front plug off, or take the top plug off. That's where it's going to blow out, because we want to blow this underwater. If you use the other one where there's no plug, then you're going to have to drop the water below the skimmer. Put her in. Now it's just snug. Now if we blow it out, and when I stop, if I see any bubbles coming up and around there, then I got to redo this. Let's hook up the blower inside. Before you blow anything, turn the heater off and then turn the gas off. If you have power to it, turn the power off. We don't want this thing turning on while you're blowing it out, thinking that's full of water. So make sure that the heater's off, power's off, and the gas is off. Very important. So this is a Hayward pump. So there's 2 plugs. There's one on the side and then there's one in the front. So take those out and then take the basket out also. So you clean the basket out. The 2 plugs we took off the pump, put that in the basket. The drain for the bottom of your filter, make sure that is off. So we're going to take that off. In the basket. So we have our blower set up. Whatever blower you're going to use, you got to make sure it's powerful enough that it could do the job. So you have to blow the front suction of the pump. So whatever comes into the front of the pump, that's going to be that skimmer, that Gizzmo we just put in. Or it's going to be maybe you have, there's only one suction here, so I know it's just the skimmer. You might have 3 other things on there. You might have a side suction, you might have the right to the main drain, but you should have some shut-off valves. Whatever ones you're going to blow out, just do one at a time. Have the other valves shut off and just do one at a time. But for this pool here, just a basic pool, that's the skimmer. Do whatever you can to blow all that stuff out. Just going to turn that on. I'll show you what it looks like. So after about 5 minutes or so, you see there's just mist. You just shut it off. Next, we're gonna put some antifreeze right in that hole. You can take a funnel and put that in there if you want. I just let some splash in around it. Now, if you get about a 4-liter jug, just use the whole thing. And that plug we took off, put that back in. Now, if you had a smaller jug, this is a big jug, but if you had a smaller jug, it'd be empty. And you put the cap back on it. And I just stick it through the front of the skimmer. It's just an added safety feature. We have that flap in there, which is called a weir. This thing here. So we have to take that off. So if you put that container in there, it holds it down. So you got the weir out. Some of them are harder to take out than others. This one's sort of waterlogged. Some of them have little handles here. You can just pull them. I think we should have been able to pull that, but it didn't come out. So you got to get a screwdriver in there and wiggle it out. Try not to break it. Take that and you put it in your basket also. So we're done with this. Next is the return lines. After you're done with everything on the outside, just put it in the basket and stick it somewhere inside the pump house. Nobody's going to mess with that. You might not have the union. This is a union right here. You might not have this, so you might have to cut it. So whatever it's the discharge from the top of the pump to the filter, I would suggest to put a union in here. If you don't have one right away, just cut it and you can always put one in next year. So hook your hose to it. It's going to be a blower anyway, so hook your blower to that. This is going to be the jets. Don't turn it on yet, I got to show you the next step. So Hayward filter, we're going to turn it to recirculate. If you have a different type of filter, it might say Whirlpool. So what this does is it just goes through the top dial. You don't want the air pushing through the sand. So it'll just go through here and out and through the heater. So let's turn that on. I'll show you what it looks like. So you want all your jets looking the same when they're blowing out. And as that's going on, we got both jets equal. So I'll show you what's next. So as it's running, we're gonna take this plug out right here. This is a Ray pack, there's 2 of them, but just take this one out here. And then there's one right here, right in there. But it's hard to take off, and a lot of times we drop it down inside here. So we haven't taken them out for a long time, which is fine. Just blow your lines out a little bit longer. Same as the salt cell. Salt cell, some of them we've taken them off, but this particular style here, we just leave it on. If you have to blow the lines out longer, then that's fine. So next, because they're backwash, you might have the backwash hose where it's just connected here. So you just disconnect it, roll it up, no big deal. But if you have a backwash that goes outside, maybe in the ground, we're going to blow that line out too. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it to waste. Turn it to waste. And we're going to turn the blower back on. You do that for a few minutes and then you're good to go. So next is, you can turn this to closed. Usually over here. Turn to closed or halfway. Usually I just go halfway in between any of them. Pressure gauge, take that off. Sight glass, your backwash sight glass. Take that off. Everything. Even the plug from the heater. Basket. We're done with the blowing the pump. So that's going to go back in there. Okay, make sure that's all covered back up. Your equipment's done. You can put this back together. Heater, again, make sure that everything, the gas is turned off, this is turned off. The switch is turned, power is turned off. If you have a timer, make sure that's off. And not only here, we want it off. We want it off at the breaker. So make sure the breaker's turned off. We want the power off from there to go here. We don't need power in here. If you have a salt cell, make sure the power is off. Even if you have to turn this off. Again, breaker, turn it off. Back on the pool side, we're going to put these caps back on our returns. If you see any bubbling, we have to redo the plugs. Now we're done everything. Whatever cover you have, you can put it on now. Swimming pool closing number 8. Before closing your pool for the season, make sure you vacuum your pool and also balance your water. Turn the pump off. Heater off. Gas off. If you have a cartridge filter, open up the valve to release the pressure. On the cartridge filter, take off the drain plug. Take the bolt off the filter. Take the metal strap off the filter. Put the metal strap in the garage or in the pump house. Take the top off and everything that's in there. Clean everything all up and just put it right back into the cartridge filter. Kreepy Krauly hose, I'll link this down below. You can get a piece of this. Take out all your jets and put your duct plugs in. Time to turn on the blower. After you're done blowing the duct plugs, make sure to cap it off. Put the lid back on the cartridge filter and also put the drain plug back on, but not fully. So if your main drain goes to the skimmer, is this one here? Sometimes they build them where this main drain might be in the back. It depends. What I do is I cut a piece of pool noodle that I can fit down there about a foot. Just push it down there and then I cap it off with this plug here. And then I use my tool just to tighten it hand tight. I've been doing it this way for over 20 years. I've never had one main drain crack or break. Put your Gizzmo in, Teflon tape. I have the blowout one, the Ultra Gizzmo. You know, snug. Your antifreeze. Probably easier with a funnel. Put your plug back on. Take the old container, stick it in front of the skimmer. If you have a wide mouth skimmer, just push it in. Put your basket away in a safe spot. Heater plug. Take all your stuff so you don't lose it. There you go. It's all there for next year. Now you can put your cover on. Swimming pool closing number 9. Step 1, make sure your water is balanced. Step 2, bring your water below the skimmer. Step 3, take out all your jets and install your duct plug. Step 4, remove your lights. Here I just use a Javex bottle and put a rock in it so I can tie it to the light to sink it below the solid ice in the winter. Okay. Don't get my face. Step 5, remove railings and ladders. Step 6, blowing out the pool plumbing and winterizing all equipment. Make sure you turn off all the breakers to the pump, salt system, heater, anything that your pool equipment needs electricity to. Make sure you turn the breaker off. Plug for the filter. Drain plugs for the pump. Should be 2 of them. Kreepy Krauly hose. If you got a Hayward pump, it fits in there perfect. You have a disconnect here, a ball valve. You can tape it to that, or we could go tape it on here, here, and here, but we don't want that much work, so we can just put it right there. We're gonna blow out the main drain first. That'd be a good massage. Next is the skimmer. Turn the skimmer on, so the main drain, don't ever open that up again. And then just stay like that when I turn it on. And turn that off. Now if you only have antifreeze in a skimmer, put half a jug first. Teflon tape. Try not to cross thread it. Take the other half. Okay. The lid back on. If you can take this, now if you just have the skimmer, then that's all you have to blow. But if you have 3 of them like this is exactly how you do it. So the side, the one right here, is going to be a side suction. So we'll open that up. Main drain's closed. We're done with that. Skimmer's closed. We're done with that. There's your side suction. So we're going to turn that on. The blower. So we're going to put the cap back on. Push down the center. They click in all the way around, and in the middle just push it. Just like that. Now, some of my videos, if you watched them, I'll take the valve here and I'll turn it to recirculate, and I'll hook it up here on this side and blow through the valve and then go through to the jets. But here I can disconnect there just before the jets. So that way you don't have to, if you don't have it set up like this, where you blow before from right after the pump. So usually there's a disconnect. Well, that's what you want anyway. Just in case you want a sand change or whatever, it's better to have a disconnect pretty close to it. So I usually hook up here, turn it to recirculate, so it doesn't go through the filter. But keep all this stuff on too if you're going to do that. If you're going to bypass, if you're going to go on the opposite side of the filter, like here, towards the jets, Then you can take all this stuff off when you take the drain plug off. And then here you can just turn it to close and then deal with your backwash. You can take the backwash hose off. Make sure the water's out of there. But today, I'm going to blow out from right there. Normally I would go right here, most of my pools, and then recirculate. So we're going to hook that up. Got ahead of myself. Now, if this was my pool, I would have another union like this and have a hose hooked up here, so I have to disconnect that and I can just screw it back on here. But I gotta do 5 million pools, so I do it this way. There we go. And then there's jet 1, jet 2. You might not have this set up. Yours might be connected underneath the ground. So ready to go. We're going to turn that on. Your basket goes back into the pump, and then you put all your parts in there. Because we're not blowing from this side, we can take this off. Get the sight glass off. Don't forget the rubber piece in there. There, everything. Don't lose it. Put the lid back on. So next year, just open that up and you don't lose any parts. So you can turn this to closed, or I just go halfway. That, and then your backwash, you can disconnect it just to drain the water out. If you have a chlorinator like this one, what I do is I just take the top off and then flip it. Okay. After you've done everything here, make sure you connect everything all back. Like if you took this off, then put it back. I find at opening, if you disconnect this and at opening, more than likely this is going to shrink a bit. The plastic here shrinks a lot, especially this flex stuff. So it might be like this far off and you can't screw it on there. So it's better just to put it back on. Same as if you use that one. This is how you close this equipment if you have this kind of setup. Step 7, putting the lock-in cover on. If you have steps, you're going to have some kind of cover on the step. So if you have the room, just roll it out like this, and you need somebody else on that side. This is the easier way of doing it. You can do it by yourself, but this is the easiest way of doing it. So we're going to take that corner. He's going to take that corner. He's going to go there. I'm going to take that corner, and I want to go there. On one corner, you want to lock it in a track so the whole thing doesn't sink. So you got this curve in the pool, and you got the curve in the cover. So you're going to try to find that curve. And you just guess. There's the middle. There's approximately, there's the middle. And then we got the middle here. So whatever, you might not have a rectangle, you might have a different shape, but find the shape that sticks out the most and start there. We're just going to lock it in. Some pools are a pain in the butt, but so as you're doing this, try to scoop some water up. And if it comes out, you can put some liner lock right in here. We got pieces of liner lock. Just gotta make sure it's in. And you can put these pieces just randomly or where the cover might be coming out. When I'm putting them in here, because we're going across this cover for the step. So this is gonna come out because it's a different level. I'm gonna try to swimming pool closing number 10. This pool we have a Pentair variable speed pump, a Pentair cartridge filter, and a Raypak heater. We have a salt cell. It's on the other side of that wall. I'll show you plumbing on that side. Sort of in a bad spot. This is what I have to deal with. Sort of not much space in there. So it looks like there's 3 ball valves there. And it goes off to the salt cell on top there. Right there. There's 2 ball valves. You have to blow all that stuff out. This pipe here goes in front of the pump. We just follow this one here. Goes in front of the pump. We go back, we follow it. And it goes to these 2 ball valves here. Well, one's going to go to the main drains and one to the skimmer. So you got to blow that off. And the shutoffs are there. So you have the shutoff one, turn on the other, blow that one out, and then vice versa, turn that one off and then that one on when you blow that in front of the pump. For the jets, looks like there's at least 3 jets. 1, 2, and 3. And then the salt cell right there. So again, we got to get to these ball valves and blow out all those returns, each one. Your plumbing might be different. Here they put in the 3 ball valves, which is nice because you can just shut off 2 of them, blow one first, then blow the next one, blow the next one. Most places you're going to be plumbed with, you know, even if you have 3 jets, it's all be all connected. You won't have any shut-offs. So you're going to have to go on the pool side, cover one to push out to the next one, First thing is turn the power off. So here we have a Pentair Easy Touch control system. So we're just going to hit the breakers. So we want heater control, we want that off. Pump and salt cells connected. Turn that off. Pool lights, we're not using that anymore. Pool cover, they have an auto cover. So we're going to turn the power off to that. We're going to leave that on. Then we're going to leave the garden lights on. Well, we'll turn that off. As long as the lights don't turn off on me in here. I try to turn off all the power to the pump house, anything to do with the pool. Before you blow anything, you got to make sure the heater's turned off. So it's off, turn the switch off. And we're going to turn the gas off. So there's gas is on. There, it's off. Next is, if you have a cartridge filter, open that up, get the air all out. Wait for all the air to come out first before you do the next step. Once this is stopped, take the drain plug off on the bottom. Open the pump lid. Take the basket out. Plugs in your pump, there should be 2 of them. For the Pentair, there's one here, and what's right beside it. One here and one here. Plugs Also in your pump basket, we're going to blow out the suction side. So it's going to be the main drain, maybe a side suction, the skimmer for sure. Up, and we're going to start blowing it out. Suction, there's two suctions. So one's going to be the main drain, one's going to be the skimmer. There's a ball valve on it. So we're going to shut one off and then keep the other one on. And then once we blow out that one, we're going to go to the next one. That for a while and you feel that it's most of it's all out. Antifreeze, but 2 liters of antifreeze. Now that plug, people have asked me what the plug is in the front. If you take that off, it's just dirt there. Sometimes if you have a main drain and you don't have any second pipe to the pump, a lot of times that plug at opening is to the main drain. But for this pool, that is just dirt underneath there. They just plugged it off. It's the wrong way of doing it when you build a pool. You want to put a plug upside down. So it's kind of a bad thing right there. So Gizzmo. Make sure the flap is off, which is called a weir. Make sure you take that out. And we're going to pour about 2 inches of antifreeze in the bottom there. Skimmer's done. So this one here was the skimmer. We're going to close that one. Then we're going to open up the main drain. So close the skimmer because that's done. And then we're going to open the main drain. Main drain open, skimmer closed, and it should look like this. You want to shut that ball valve off for the main drain. So when it's bubbling up, you want to keep that air pressure down. So if we shut it off right away, we're kind of holding that water down under the frost line. So we're going to turn it off right now as the blower is going. So turn it off and then you can turn the blower off after. Both are shut. I'm going to take that out. We're going to put our basket with all our stuff. Put it back in. We're done with that. Okay, so we're done with that. Plugs are out. So we're going to deal with this side here. I have a cartridge filter, so next is we're going to be doing this. So we're going to take that band off, take this, take the filters right out. I do have a video on this particular filter right here, how to clean everything, and I'll link it right above here. They're out. We put the gasket for around here. We just put it inside there. Any other parts so we don't lose them, the smaller ones. The filters, you can go clean them later. With the rest of your stuff, we're going to put that in the basket, the skimmer basket with your weir for the skimmer, and then our jets are in there. Now this filter here, we can't blow it from inside the cartridge. Hayward has a pipe that goes up further here. This is totally different. We're not even going to blow it from that way. We're going to have to disconnect this and try to blow it through the heater and to our returns. Well, it's not pretty, but do what you can on your pool to hook up the pipe. A lot of times I just tape it. You could come up with a fitting kind of deal and get it on the heater. We just got to get all the water out. Any sitting water, get it all out. We got to get out of the heater. There's a salt cell over there we got to drain. So hook it up the best way you can. We're going to turn it on and see what happens. So the drain plug is going to be underneath the manifolds right here. So do it as it's blowing out. The other one, if you've seen my other videos, I do not take out the other one anyway. I'm kind of glad because we got this in the way. But normally I don't take it out for this particular heater. I don't take it out on the one side. All heaters have a pressure switch. Some of them you can get to, some of them you can't. If you blow the lines long enough, then you're good to go. But some of the Haywards, you gotta take the pressure switch out. You gotta move the door and take it out. As the blower is running, take the drain plug off. Have a salt cell right there, and it's okay to stay there. Just blow out the lines a little bit longer. This style here is good as long as you get all the water out. Over everything that you need to shut off, anything that's water in it, take a look and make sure that you've blown out all the lines, taken out all the water, did as much as you could. You don't want anything breaking. Once you're done in here, go on the pool side and then put the plugs in for the winter, and then put your winter cover on, and you're done.